And welcome to Crux Investor. We caught up earlier today with Zeph Reeves. He's the MD of Tesoro Resources, an ASX-listed gold explorer and developer with assets in Chile. We talked to him following our conversation in August last year about the fundraise, the plans for this year, and what they hope to be able to achieve in the middle of this year. If you want our thoughts and opinions on the topics we discussed, the conversation as a whole, and indeed the company, you can find that at cruxinvestor.com/club. We can also find detailed company reports and analysis. There's commentary from experts from around the world on a variety of commodities and companies. We've also got training courses on there to help you with your diligence process. We've got summaries of other interviews that we've done to save you some time. And of course, there's our thriving community of investors sharing their thoughts and ideas with each other in a nice, safe and friendly environment. Isn't that a nice thought? So why don't you go and join them at cruxinvestor.com/club. And we'd love your feedback too. So do give us a like. We'd appreciate it. Leave your thoughts below. We'll get back to absolutely everyone. And of course, you want to see what we talked about today, take a look in the description below. Zeph, how you doing, sir?
Yes, I'm going very well, thank you.
Good to see you, mate. It's been about 4 months or so. Been quite busy. We're going to catch up about that in a second. But first of all, how are things in Oz?
Things are going pretty good, although we've had a bit of a shock to the system in the last 24 hours with fine old Perth going into a COVID lockdown. So quite unusual for us to experience that. But hopefully it's only for 5 days. And hopefully we'll get on back to where we were, but obviously nothing like what you guys are experiencing in the UK.
Well, I don't know. Should we compare notes? Okay, so how many cases are there?
1.
Right. Okay. And where's that case come from?
It's actually come out of a quarantine hotel. So, I mean, there's active cases in the quarantine hotels, but this is the first community spread case for some time in Perth, and they have told us that it's the UK variant, which is a little bit more contagious, I believe.
Yeah.
So our government, being the cautious types that they are, have put the city in lockdown. Hopefully it's only for the 5 days and we can all get on with it.
Isn't that amazing?
In time for the weekend.
So it's a UK variant. It's made it all the way over to Australia through quarantine. And someone has given it to one of the workers in the quarantine hotel, presumably. Yeah. That just shows how easy it is to transmit. Yeah, we've had a shocker. We've had 50,000 cases a day. I think we're down to sort of in the low 20s now. But yeah, there we go. That's how it works, folks. That's how it works. Should we talk mining? Something we know something about?
I think we should. Yes, let's talk Tesoro.
Okay. So before we do, why don't you give everyone like 1 minute overview of Tesoro for people new to the story, and we'll pick it up from there.
Yeah, okay. So Tesoro is a gold exploration and development company. We're focused on the El Zorro Gold Project, which is in the northern part of Chile, only 1 hour air flight away from Santiago. It's located on the coast. And Tesoro was listed on the ASX at the beginning of 2020 in February. And since then, we've defined what's shaping up to be a high quality gold deposit at Ternera, one of the prospects we're drilling at El Zorro. And we're seeing some huge drill intercepts come out of that. And we've taken this company now from a listing valuation market cap of around $8 million to around $135 million market cap today. We're well funded. We've got approximately 20 million Australian dollars in the bank, and we've got our foot flat to the floor drilling out Ternera, getting it through scoping and feasibility and trying to get this project through development as quickly as possible.
That you are. I noticed that last time we spoke, you were about 16 cents, 25 cents today, but you did get up to the dizzying heights of around just over 50 cents. I mean, what was going on there?
Yeah, I think during that period, the period from probably June through to October last year, the whole gold sector on the ASX, we're all reaping the benefits of a fairly bull gold market. Obviously, the gold price has come off the touch, but look, we're still looking at record highs, right? So, but some of that money's probably come out of the gold sector now, and the whole gold equity market in Australia and Canada, when you're looking at some of our comparative companies that have steadily declined since October. But things were certainly getting quite overheated, I thought, in in that period immediately after mid-year, but things seem to have settled down a bit now, seeing probably more realistic valuations. But look, certainly all the gold stocks had a good run, and look, we used that elevated share price as an opportunity to raise some capital, and hence, sitting on a pretty healthy treasury at the moment, and able to get on with getting Al Zorro through development and into production.
Yeah, absolutely was quite an extraordinary period of time. I think people are wandering around looking at different things, silver, GameStop, things like that, aren't they?
Yeah, well, and I think probably in the last 2 weeks or so, or certainly since the new year, there's certainly money coming out of the gold sector going into the battery thematic. Again, you've seen a number of the lithium miners increasing value, and some of the specialty metal companies are starting to gain some attention again. But I think just given the general economic state of the world, we're seeing still plenty of volatility particularly in the resources and materials sectors, and probably going to continue to do so. But Tesoro can't control that. What we can control is the work that we do, and we think we've got a high quality asset that speaking for itself so far. I think we've drilled over 80 holes into Al Zorro now, and not one of them has come back with a negative result. So it's quite amazing, actually, how things have gone for us.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So don't worry, folks. I think gold's probably going to have a good year, so don't fear about that.
No, we're of the same belief. I think it's going to continue to go, and I think anything above $1,600 US an ounce is still pretty bull gold territory, right?
Absolutely, and I think it's going to be safely above that this year. There you go. We talked last time about your business plan, strategy, team, how you're going to deliver this. I think I'll put a link below so people can go and have a look at that if they want to sort of check out the company and its substance. Because the thing I quite liked about that conversation was how you guys had gone through a private company phase and funded a lot of work prior to going public. So I think people should listen to that component of the interview. It was very interesting to me. Today, I want to focus on what's going to happen this year. Okay, so you took the opportunity to raise some capital, 20 million Aussie. I guess everyone just wants to understand what's the plan about how you're allocating that and what you hope to be able to deliver by the end of 2021.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, we're very well funded now, and we've hit the ground running again this year. We've currently got 4 diamond drill rigs at Al Zorro, drilling away, and they're actually achieving some pretty huge production rates. We've already drilled nearly 5,000 metres since the beginning of the year, which is good. But at the moment, we've got about 30,000 metres of diamond drilling planned for the immediate Ternera area. So Ternera is the deposit that we're drilling at Al Zorro. We're trying to find the edges of it. We haven't done so yet, which is a good problem to have. And the more drilling we do, the bigger it gets. At some point in time, we're going to have to probably draw a line in the sand and say, okay, let's go and infill all this area, get a maiden resource out, and that's really our key focus for this first half of this year. But look, in conjunction with that, we're already commencing some of our scoping study work to, basically determine what the optimal program or optimal pathway for this project is in terms of, things like power supply, water supply, processing methods, and those sorts of things. But look, the project's located in such a favourable location to build a gold mine. We've got lots of options at our disposal, which is, a really big point of difference between us and a lot of our peers, I think, is that we do have those options due to the location of the project. So between now and, I guess, the end of this year, we'd expect to see a maiden resource estimate on the table. Obviously, a steady flow of drill results leading up to that and probably beyond as we continue to grow it. And certainly the results of an initial scoping study and moving this project through into a feasibility as quickly as we can. Okay,
last time we spoke, you were kind of reticent to actually put a number on the size of the maiden resource that you would like to. But given every hole has hit mineralization, given the grades that you're seeing, are you in discussions in the board thinking, we think the maiden resource should look something like X number? Are you putting a number on it?
Yeah, sure. Obviously, we're looking at all those and having those discussions, pretty regularly as we're modelling our drilling information as we go. That all gets done on the fly continuously, so it helps plan our drilling as well as begin to understand the scale of the project. So yeah, we do have some numbers in the back of our mind what we think we would need to achieve to build a mine here, but keeping in mind this is likely to be a lower grade but high tonnage operation initially, albeit we're seeing some really nice juicy results in the core of the deposit. And when I say juicy, it's fairly common for us to produce results like 30 or 40 metres width at 3 or 4 grams per tonne, but this sits in a sea of lower grade material. But that's all starting to hang together in 3D now, and it's starting to be defined over quite a large area. And we see mineralisations well formed from surface down to 400 metres depth. And I think at the moment we've defined an area that's probably 800 metres long by about 400 or 500 metres wide. So I think, as we mentioned while we were chatting before the interview kicked off, we haven't found the edges of it yet, which is a good problem to have. But in terms of overall numbers, I think I mentioned before, ultimately we'd like to see something in the realm of 100,000 ounce plus production rate coming out of a mine built in this part of the world at the sort of grades that we're seeing. So, at the moment we're seeing all those results coming in and nothing to deter us from pushing on to achieve that.
So again, coming back a little bit to the conversation around business plan before and strategy, has your thinking evolved or changed given the sorts of grades that you're seeing and the fact that you're able to sort of, well, I know you haven't found the edges yet, but you've got an idea of where you're going to be. Do you say this company is about getting into early production, getting cash flowing, and we know we can keep building the scale of this thing out? Or are you tempted just to keep drilling and deliver a multi-million ounce resource, maybe make that someone else's problem?
Yeah, look, I think that, I mentioned probably in the last interview with you that it was always our intent to get this project into production. It's one of the reasons that we went and targeted the coastal belt, access to infrastructure, all of those sorts of things, whereby it's not inconceivable that a junior company can take a project from discovery through development and into production. We're still on that same pathway and strategy. It's not to say there hasn't been knocks on the door by mid-tiers and majors who are interested in some of our fairly spectacular drill results. And that door's always open, of course, to have those discussions. But at this stage, look, the board and the company are fully focused on taking this through to production as quickly as possible. I think we're on the record as saying, and it's been in our ASX announcements and presentations previously, that we are aiming for a mid-year this year to have a maiden resource around. We think that the resource that we announce will be an economical resource for this part of the world to take it through to the next stage of, pushing through to feasibility and so on. So no, the strategy hasn't changed. That's not to say that maiden resource won't continue to grow, but we'll certainly put some economics around something by mid-year, we think.
So you will continue to prove up the scale of this, as well as concurrently with the scoping study, trying to understand the economics of what you've got today. So what does that mean? So where are you with that scoping study? And what's the timing of that? Yeah,
so we're already in the sort of data collection phase where, we're looking at our options in terms, and we're talking to people like power providers. There's a number of power options for the project. We're looking at different water options, and we've already pegged concessions, for example, for all of our access from the highway. We've pegged easements along the ocean to gain access to seawater. So we're just starting to do all of that work. We're commencing some of the environmental work that needs to be done for permitting, and beginning to have discussions about generally how the site would be laid out. For example, where you'd put a waste dump, where you'd put a tailings dam, and those sorts of things. And I suppose it's also important to mention we're also currently working at building our team and our internal capability of people able to execute that work. So So we're currently in the process of engaging a study manager, and we're also considering making additional appointments to our board for advice to our board on from individuals who have had that experience in taking a project right through this part of its development, if you like, from discovery through to building it.
How are you finding conversations around water? Because that seems to be always a sticking point in Chile.
Yeah, well, we're only 13 kilometres from the ocean. So in Chile, it's really common to use ocean water, the seawater, in a mineral processing plant. There's actually a permit that's already granted to another water user that's only 20 kilometres away from the mine or from the deposit that we're having a chat to. So these are all forming parts of our scoping study. But, in a gold plant, salt water is no problem to use in a typical cyanide extraction process. I mean, the goldfields here in Western Australia are using groundwater, which is thousands of times saltier than seawater with no issues. But there's a permitting process involved to do that, and we're beginning all of those processes now because they're sort of our long lead items, if you like. And so as we go through this process, we start ticking all of those boxes as we go through. So by the time we have the maiden resource on the table, we've got an order of magnitude of the project, the conceptual scale of it, probably what are the best options for processing, power, water, infrastructure, and so on. And then we can move directly into feasibility. So it's always our intent, and what we're working on is to run these processes in parallel across multiple teams to be able to deliver the project as quickly as we can.
Okay, so talk to me about sort of this earning that you've got, because you need to deliver a feasibility study to get 80% of the company plus $50,000, I suspect. So is the current funding in place? Does that get you there because you're doing it in an accelerated timeframe, or will there be another raise between now and then?
We think we're probably just about there in terms of funding. Again, it will come down to the ultimate size of the deposit. If things continue to grow, it might not, but and we spend more money on drilling. But look, we think we'll get, if we don't get all the way through fees, we'll be certainly a good way down that road with the current funding, So there'll be plenty of value to be created between now and then. And, we'd hope investors are there able to see us grow into that with what we think, obviously a very attractive deposit at this point in time from what we're saying.
Fantastic. And you guys are, the management team, just to remind everyone, you're significant holders at the moment, aren't you? Yeah,
that's right. We've obviously funded the company prior to listing, as well as, I guess, the sweat equity in 6 years prior to even forming Tesoro was the first time I actually saw the project. So, it's taken some time and effort to work out an appropriate deal with the vendor, and then funding the company through its infancy prior to listing. So we're heavily aligned to our existing shareholders, obviously, by being major shareholders in the company. And I think that's a pretty positive thing, because that's what we're all motivated here for, is to see that share price grow and the value of the company grow. Okay, interesting. And just to finish off, can we just talk about where you're going to be drilling, the order play, if you don't mind, in terms of the targets that you're looking at? Yeah, look, we've had some recent success on particularly the northeast flank of Ternera. We've seen some pretty spectacular results come out of there. I think our biggest drill intercept, or best drill intercept, what I'd classify as our best drill intercept, has come out of there recently. We've done a number of follow-up holes that have all had big, wide, well-mineralised intercepts. So when I say big, we're sort of talking 200 to 250 metres at over a gram, with higher grade intervals within that. That whole zone sort of starting to really expand now and is open to the northeast. So there's been quite a focus on, I guess, understanding the geometry of that and its continuity. We've also drilled some up dip holes of that part of the ore body and had some good success there. So the focus has been there, and now we're coming back to infill that. So there's a split between those 4 drill rigs that are on site at the moment. 3 of them are essentially doing infill and extensional drilling on the immediate Ternera area that logical places to go and drill. And the fourth rig is sort of stepping out a little bit wider and doing a little bit more high risk drilling on Ternera. We've also now drilled 2 holes into another target called Torre Gordo, which is immediately south of Ternera. And we'll be looking to probably drill some holes in some of our other targets, keeping in mind this is an emerging large district. Ternera is the first of 6 targets that we've identified significant gold mineralisation that we've drilled. So we see a fair bit of potential to add some additional upside to what we've got at El Zorro over the year, as well as some drilling in some of those other targets.
Brilliant. Look, Zeph, appreciate the update. We liked the story first time we heard it. I guess we'll sit and wait to hear from you with regards to how this drilling goes and maiden resource in the middle of the year. Easy, right?
Yeah. Busy. All done from lockdown.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
No, thanks, Matt. It's going to be a very exciting year, I think, for Tesoro over the next 6 to 12 months. Particularly, we've kicked off a 30,000 metre drill program. There's plenty of drill results to come out. Obviously, that scoping study is already underway, and we're very keen for our shareholders to be on board and watch the growth of this company. I think we're on to a significant deposit at Ternera and a very exciting time over the next 6 to 12 months.